Merry holidays. I'm not saying that to be politically correct. I just neither here nor there currently. All inclusive. I want everybody to feel welcome to the holiday season, right? Hana Christmas Hana Kwanzaa is what it was called, right? Yeah, my sleep schedule's all ass backwards currently because of the holidays and everything else. So I'm like sleeping all day, taking a few days to a week or more off during the holidays, and yeah. So I feel like potentially trying to play some Worlds of Warcraft, Wordle of Warcraft, to pass the time. I just wish, like I say, man, the internet used to be a place where you could talk to people, and it's not that way anymore. Like, remember, God, dude, it sucks, doesn't it? You used to be able to remember chat rooms. Remember, uh, it just people have gone above and beyond to like ruin the internet experience. Like the heyday of the internet was. I mean, there was always people playing make pretend to be something that they weren't and all that stuff. But now it's like it's 9 out of 10 people. Um, it sucks. So it's like it's hard for say a guy like me that I grew up like all my social activity and stuff online that was growing up was on a computer. It's all I know, for the most part. I do well with people too, but I meant like my social skills are almost exclusively through a computer. And then from like 2010 or so until the 2020, people have gone like to extreme lengths to like ruin the experience that you can get online, where like everybody isn't who they say they are, and everybody's out to get you, and you're just like, for a guy like me, where I would say 75% or more of my social interaction takes place through a terminal or a computer or whatever, you would say, yeah, it sucks that people had to ruin that kind of experience, right? It's like, so it makes it, like, not to say I need to learn new social skills, although that would be, certainly helpful. Public speaking is something that I need to get more familiar with, I think, and that's kind of why I've taken the time to branch out here recently and do this. Is also like, yeah, I can't imagine I'll ever be one of the guys that has like a following of people on a stream or whatever, because the production value is shit, and I'm not necessarily that interesting. But it's more or less so I can get familiar with like enunciating and things, where I normally just, if I'm kind of mumbling to myself, I won't necessarily enunciate correctly, and things that like you get in the habit of doing. How I end every sentence with like, and at the end of the day, and this and the other thing, right? So I try to break myself of those habits, and when I talk to myself, if I want to really, I just imagine at some point in time that everything that I've thought, I want to be well rehearsed to the point where if I have to express it to somebody else, I don't look like an idiot. So I do spend a fair bit of my time just going over the same thing over and over again, like my speech, for no real reason other than just because what it boils down to is like interpersonal relationships are something totally different. I've always been really good at those, like real deep, close personal relationships with individuals. I've always been like everybody's best friend when it comes to that kind of thing. But when it comes to like the surface level kind of shake hands, meet and greet, tell me a little bit about yourself, I've always kind of struggled because I'm nervous to meet new people and all that. But I feel like this is a good practice to where I have like an arsenal of things that I can kind of talk about, or things that I can touch on. So that way, when I do meet new people that aren't necessarily, I'm not trying to move in with them or anything, right? That way, I've got like an arsenal of things that I can talk about consistently. So I don't have like, so I'm not like repeating myself, and I'm not necessarily getting like too close and personal with a stranger. It's kind of a delicate dance in between, saying too much and not saying enough, and I'm just trying to find that sweet spot really, uh, as it pertains to like what I consider what I do for my work, right? Obviously different things for different groups of people, but hopefully it all kind of meshes together, if that's the right word. So at that point in time, I'm not like, you know what I mean, struggling to find myself, because one of my biggest fears, and I think anybody's biggest fear often is crashing and burning in front of a bunch of people. You know what I mean? So rather that just be a conversation or something else, it's like it's something you're trying to avoid at all costs for the most part. So that being said, uh, as much as I'm sure people think like, it's like I give a shit really, but they think it sometimes, and I'd be hard pressed to wonder what the mental status of somebody that quite literally did not care what people said, even a little bit. There are people that say they don't, and then there are people that really don't, I guess. But I'm one of those people that I don't to an extent, but I mean, it's still, I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, yeah, I mean, it's somewhere between 1 and 10. It still bothers you. Um, you know what I mean? Uh, but there are people that just legitimately don't care. I hate to say that I don't care what people say or think, but at some point in time, when I say I don't care, more or less what I mean is that I know what they have to say isn't valuable or isn't accurate, so I have to not discredit, but discount it uh, from my thing here, so I don't necessarily go. How do you improve upon yourself with all the feedback that you're receiving, being people that don't know better or don't care or don't have they're not considerate of you or not understanding or they have an agenda? You're like, so it's best I have to discount or credit or whatever, discount what other people have to say that isn't accurate, instead of going like, oh well, how do I appease these people? Like some people, so when I say I don't care, what I mean is some people aren't worth trying to appease, right? There are some people that are. There are some people where like you genuinely see a behavior that you've had and you don't recognize it until you meet somebody else and you're like, okay, yeah, for out of respect to them, here's how I'll behave from now on, or here's how I'll conduct business, or how I'll interface with these people from this point forward, or whatever. But then there are people that they like to push your buttons and they like to just bother you for the sake of bothering you, and it's like those are the type of people, you know what I mean? Out of respect for another individual, look, I'll often be the first person to stifle my opinion, and that's because it is just my opinion, and I care more about respecting somebody else and not hurting their feelings than I do having to voice something that I feel makes me right. You know what I mean? Now it's good to have an opinion. Don't get me wrong. I have a lot of opinions about shit, but when it comes to like my opinion versus your feelings, I'm often the type of person to say, well, obviously to me, your feelings are more important than what I have to say, and there's a time and a place, and there are people that get to go, they get a bit ridiculous with it, where suddenly all of your opinions hurt their feelings, and then you can't say anything. So like I said, it's a delicate dance between, you know what I mean, being respectful and retaining your own, sense of personality and things like that. So I try, which it makes it difficult because the type of people that I generally find myself interfacing with here locally where I live is kind of it's just kind of a strange thing. That's all. Basically, all I know is things that they don't know much about, so it's hard to find that, like, not to say the sweet spot, but where there is some common ground to have some sort of conversation or friendship or whatever. I'm not a big car guy. I'm not a big like whatever these people do, and not to besmirch them. It's hard to find common ground with a group of people that have a different set of interests than you. And they all like cryptocurrency, but they're not. I'm not to say they have to be savvy for me to find a common ground with them. And a lot of people do appreciate the input that I have to give about cryptocurrency. But as far as like a deeper conversation, sometimes the thing that I really appreciate, it makes it a bit more difficult, unfortunately. So that being said, yeah, but you find people that what I've noticed too was the woke agenda thing. I was like, this is a reason for everybody to have just a list of things that hurts their feelings, so then they can control other people and bully them out of their opinion and stuff. So like I said, so not to say I don't care, but you can only care so much sometimes too, Whereas like, and you see people that, and unfortunately I've got real life friends that I moved away from where I grew up, and whatever mind virus took control of that area, like these people are not the people I grew up with. I don't know what the fuck happened, really. We're trying to have an opinion, and it's all about their feelings, and like I get it, but they weren't this way growing up, man. They really weren't. They were not that way about things. They were just like me, and I can't say that I changed that much. you know, more or less because I haven't had really anybody to interact with since then. So there's not a lot of like people that could have directly influenced me into being a different person. Like these people used to be just like me, and now, and I really do think it was partially because of COVID for whatever reason. Because when I went to visit my hometown where I grew up and all that stuff a few years ago, uh, the people there, like this was like they were still like in a straight line, wearing masks, standing 6 feet away from each other, lining up to go inside a Kohl's. It's like a shopping place that sells clothes or whatever. I'm like, they weren't doing this just like a few hours south of here. Like I could tell you they're probably not even doing this next county over. This was in like 2022. They were still doing this, right? Like they were all still masked up, waiting in a straight line, trying to get in the store and everything else. You're like, where I'm from, you know, or where I'm at now. I'm like, I don't even like, they haven't been doing that shit for years now. And I go somewhere else and they're like, they're still that, say, kind of affected by what I believe to be some form of like indirect influencing or some sort of mind virus that had people behaving as cattle, you know, and it was kind of a sight to see. You wish they hadn't gotten that way, but I can't help but realize that at the same time that this coronavirus thing took over and everybody got into a tizzy about it, that all of the people began acting like that, and then it was around the same time that all the people that I knew from high school and my early teens and late teens and all that stuff, they all completely changed. I was like, what the, you know, so I have to assume there's some correlation there. Like, I showed up at one of my friend's house, you know, and they were all wearing like hazmat suits, and this was like 2021, 2022. I'm like, static guards on their feet and everything. I was like, wow, yeah. It was a sight to see everybody still acting that way. I'm like, for the most part, that sort of thing lasted for like a month or two, where I'm from, where I live currently, and this was years later. They were all still acting like that. I'm like, most of what was not laws. Those were all policies that had people behaving in such a way. You know what I mean? Like when they say, "Oh, well, you have to wear this or you have to do that." Like, can you point to the law and tell me what law? Like, if I don't do it and you drag me off to jail, can you point to the law and tell me what law I've broken? Like, well, no, but so you're just following orders, right? Yeah, but whatever. Either way, yeah, but I've kind of not say taken a break from doing this, but I've kind of spaced out the broadcast a little more and try to come up with something more substantive, so it's not just me sitting here. And some days I have it, some days I don't. You know, you don't need to hear from me every day. I'll still like. That's the thing though, is if I ever do find, say, an audience or even people to participate in the process in any way, shape, or form, then yeah, I'll be very fortunate if they want to provide me with like feedback or questions or insight or anything else. But for the most part, it's just me doing this to document whatever, you know. And there was a point in time where I was doing the Leah streams too, and honestly, you know, I could probably pause this really and try and do a Leah stream, to be honest. We haven't had a battleground yet. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so I'm going to pause this stream and I'm going to rename the stream